a warm welcome to our audience for the next edition of Salesforce Success, our Mason Frank podcast. Welcome to our next attendee, Charlotte Picker. Would you like to introduce yourself properly, and we can hear a bit more about you?
Yeah, sure. Thank you so much for having me, Catherine. I really appreciate it. So how I often introduce myself is that I am a self-confessed generalist, and by which I mean I've done a variety of different things and across product, program, commercial, operations, but I've always worked in kind of tech and operations, I guess. So that's kind of my background. It's mainly been in retail and logistics, although I am about to start a new role in a new industry. Having said that, I have done the role previously, so I'll be looking after business systems again, which I'm super excited about, which means I get to be reacquainted with Salesforce. And then outside of work, I mentor women in tech and digital. And I've also been doing some thought leadership myself with my friend. We've just finished Careers in Coffee, which is a LinkedIn Live series that we've just wrapped. So that's me.
Excellent. Awesome. So you've definitely kept yourself busy. I think today you're going to be talking around the kind of a review of the permanent job market.
Sure.
So I don't know if you want to kick off with talking about perhaps your job search, including a little bit more detail around your kind of background, etc.
Of course. So back end of last year, like many people, I was made redundant. Second time for me. And I don't know if your listeners know this, but on average, people get made redundant 3 times in their career. So fingers crossed, only one more time to go. And so it was an interesting time to be made redundant because obviously a lot of tech businesses were hit. I was working in a scale-up business. And for me, it wasn't a surprise. So I embraced it. Having been made redundant before, I felt fairly confident that I knew what I wanted to do to be able to move forward. And it's been an interesting time because the first time I was made redundant was actually at the beginning of COVID. And so I just took a job as quickly as I could because obviously there's so much unknown. This time I was much more intentional about my search and kind of felt a bit less pressured. And I think at that point, when I reflect about redundancies, there still weren't as many redundancies as there had been during the kind of the peak of COVID. I think since that point, I would say probably around February, March time, I felt like the market started to sort of tighten and there was less opportunities, whereas to start off with, it felt quite buoyant. But I also shared with my network that I'd been made redundant and lots of people came to me with various opportunities. But unfortunately, I was victim a lot of, we really want to hire you, but we've had our budget frozen or we've got hiring freeze. And I think a lot of people had the same thing.
Okay, so what trends have you seen in the last sort of 6 months or whilst you were looking for kind of your new opportunity?
I would say the market's changed a lot during that period of time. So if I think it's sort of more recently, the thing that's been most interesting to me is that lots of businesses are now sharing the salaries that they're planning on paying. And I would say that the salaries have been lower than expected. That's one of the trends I've seen. But conversely, I've also seen more remote roles, fully remote roles, which is great. And then I've also seen the same thing happen in perm and contract, which both markets have struggled, which in my experience has been unusual. It's usually one's doing better than the other, but both of them were struggling. And then I would say more recently, there's been less of the budget freezing and the hiring freezing, and businesses seem to be being more buoyant with the hiring again.
We're definitely seeing that cycle as well. And I would say that actually probably our contract division has been busier than our permanent division. But, there's definitely been a slight hit on kind of salaries and sort of opportunities out there over the last 6 months. But actually, I feel like we might be turning the corner now, which would be fantastic to see. And that gives people confidence, doesn't it, to kind of maneuver between roles as well, those already in roles. So what are your top tips that the audience may benefit from hearing that have helped you this year whilst you've been looking for a role?
I would say grow and grow and maintain your network. That's been huge for me in terms of not only opportunities for work, but opportunities to speak, do thought leadership, meet other people. I talk about having a high curiosity profile, so I'm always looking for learning opportunities as well. So that for me would be the number one thing. I'd also say be intentional with your job search, particularly those people who've been made redundant. I get it. It's frustrating. It's really hard when you just can't seemingly find a role. But actually, every time I've been more intentional, I've been more successful with finding a role faster. And then my last thing would be hone your power skills. And so not everyone will know what I guess I mean by power skills, because some people will talk about soft skills or personal skills. But for me, like really developing my power skills, the things that make me me and add value to an organization. So my kind of 3 areas around sort of being analytical, so working on my problem solving skills, critical and logical thinking, having agility, so developing my growth mindset, high curiosity profile, navigating ambiguity. And then the third one is around general management. So communication, leadership, collaboration, organizational skills. But those are my personal power skills. But I would really challenge your audience to really figure out what they are and hone those, because it really will add value to their job search.
That's awesome. That you sound like my type of person. I love to continually be learning as well. And I think,
absolutely.
This year in particular, there's been a lot of opportunities that have not been out there directly on the market, even advertised, but that we have filled roles with firms that have just never gone to market. So I think being really specific is a great way of finding the right opportunity for you. So I totally get it. What's the most unique interview question that you've been asked or have asked at interview? I'd love to hear your thoughts on that one.
I'm laughing because I've literally just wrapped an episode around interviews on Careers and Coffee, and I held back sharing this because I knew we were going to talk about this today. So the strangest question I've ever been asked, well, I say strange, it was just unexpected, I think. The interviewer, who happened to be a CEO, asked me how many hours there were in a day as an interview question. Now, obviously what he's getting at is the answer he was looking for was as many as it takes to be able to deliver what you need to do. But it was a bit of a left field, oh my God, it's not your sort of bog standard competency based question. So yeah, that was definitely the most unusual one I've been asked.
Yeah, and some people might just simplistically say 24. Who knows, actually?
Yeah, I mean, some people are literal in their thinking and some people are more abstract. And some people would panic and go, oh my God, I've got no idea how to answer this question, right?
Yeah, it definitely puts you on the spot, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah. And so finally, to wrap things up, what career advice would you give for those starting their careers? Because you've obviously had a really strong career to date and got an exciting new role to go into, but it's useful to give the audience that are starting out some kind of input.
Sure. I mean, if I start specifically on Salesforce, so I kind of fell into Salesforce. It was never intentional. And so I have secured Salesforce roles. I think I said this to you offline, but I'm not certified and I haven't sought out this specialism. So I think if you're interested in Salesforce, for example, as a career, you necessarily need to go and do the certification straight off the bat, because it's complex, it's exciting bit of tech, but not everybody would need to do that. And I certainly, in the product and program roles I've done and leading teams that manage Salesforce, haven't needed to be certified. So that's my specific thing. But I guess more broadly, networking is essential. Build your network, build your community. It really helps in times where you need it, but also as a mutual benefit where you can help somebody else. I also am a passionate mentor. So I'd say find mentors, whether they're in the business you work in, whether they're outside. Don't be afraid to reach out to somebody on LinkedIn that you think, I'd really like them to mentor me. What's the worst they're going to say? No, or not reply? Most people like to talk about themselves. They're happy to help other people. So that would be kind of my other thing. I'd also say, because I hear this a lot from people I mentor, comparison is the thief of joy. So I would say, do not compare yourself to a colleague, to friends, family. You do you. What's meant for you is meant for you. And just stop with the comparisonitis, because that will only hold you back. I guess those are kind of my top tips.
Absolutely love the final tip as well. Yeah, no, it's very easy to do, but it is it's difficult to see the whole picture as well when you're comparing. So brilliant.
Absolutely.
Excellent. Thank you very, very much, Charlotte, for joining us today. Your tips, etc., have been really insightful, and look forward to hopefully welcoming you back in the future. Awesome.
Thanks so much.